What's up, YouTube? It's Kenny again. Let's talk about Hyliion. So, I've recently made some changes. I moved some of my Hyliion position over to my long-term portfolio, and I'm starting to build a position over there. I've had some people ask me if I'm still holding the stock. I am. I just bought my first 10 shares in my long-term position, and I'm going to be in my long-term portfolio, and I'm going to be dollar cost averaging into it to build up a position over there. I don't really hold a lot of stuff long term, even though I've recently kind of found myself in a position where I'm going to hold some stuff for a little while in my Roth IRA. But most of my things that I decide to hold long term, I put in this other portfolio that is taxable, so that I don't plan to sell it, and that if I sell it, there's repercussions because I have to pay taxes on it. So I just put that stuff in that other portfolio. That way I can make all my moves in my IRA, which is tax-free. Anyway, before we get started, just want to say I am not a financial advisor. I'm just a truck driver driving across the country, trading stocks, researching stocks, and I will not be held responsible for any moves you make in the stock market. I am not your mama. All right, hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to build the channel, so hit the subscribe button if you want some real content, that's not pre-scripted, and like the video and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about the stuff I'm talking about in these videos. So I wanted to talk again about Hyliion. All right, now for those of you who haven't seen my channel, the first video I made about Hyliion blew up, and I got a lot of people subscribing based on that, and a lot of people are constantly asking me questions about it. Okay, I'm a truck driver. I've been driving trucks for 20 years, both over the road, long haul, and local. I drove trucks for a few years over the road when I first started 20 years ago. Then when my son was born, I came off the road and did local stuff, drove trucks in a local setting for years, and then a couple of years ago I came back on the road. So I know a lot about truck driving. All right, I know a lot about the trucks. I know a lot about the business. I know a lot about what it's like to be a long haul truck driver. And I'm going to say again that I think that Hyliion is the only company that has a solution right now that will work for long haul trucking. Tesla, they're fine in the short haul, maybe dedicated fleets and stuff like that. That type of technology will work to plug in electric. Nikola, the hydrogen technology is still a long way away. It's doable, but the price of hydrogen and the availability of hydrogen makes that something that is 5 years out, at least. But with the technology that Hyliion is coming out with, that is supposed to become available later this year, it works in the industry as it is now, okay, without any huge infrastructure build out, without any major changes to the way things work right now. So when Hyliion releases this product, the ERX system, okay, it will hit the ground running. When companies start to adopt it, it will hit the ground running. And these other technologies have years of build out in infrastructure that has to occur before they will be viable. And the Tesla, the way it is coming out, is not going to be viable for long haul truckers like me. Okay. Now, something I want to say that I get a lot of comments about is that people rail against me saying that Tesla is not viable. Tesla is viable in the short haul, local delivery type space. Okay, and there's room for that. But they are not viable for people like me, for over-the-road truckers. And we are a large portion of the truck drivers out there, okay? We're a large portion of it. Like, we're the ones who are running the most miles. We're the ones who are polluting the most. We're the ones that are consuming the vast, large amounts of diesel fuel just because of the way it operates. And you may see all of these trucks delivering Dr. Pepper and delivering Coca-Cola and stuff like that in your town, delivering beer, stuff like that. Those guys go home every night. They come to work in the morning, get in their trucks. They drive, probably 200-300 miles, maybe. I mean, I don't even know if they do that much in a day, delivering products to the stores, okay? But we are the ones, the over-the-road truckers, the long-haul truckers, we are the ones that bring them those products to distribute. They don't make those products at that plant where those guys start in the morning. That's a warehouse that we deliver to. We pick up Coca-Cola in Florida and bring it to Texas. We pick up Hershey in Pennsylvania and bring it to Ohio. We're the ones doing the long-haul trucking. We are the ones that are providing those companies the products for them to then distribute locally, okay? Walmart, all of these companies, the long-haul truckers like me are the ones that are taking those products from all over the country and bringing them to those distribution houses. So, for those guys who pick up at that warehouse where we unload, that's viable for Tesla, okay? But for us, it's not, because we have to be able to do long distances and we have to be able to fuel at remote areas all across the country. And so when you think about these charging stations that you're going to have for a Tesla truck, those will have to be all over the country before it will be viable for long haul trucking. And if you watch my other videos, you'll see my arguments about how even if that were the case, there would still be a lot of logistical issues to using that as a solution for long haul trucking. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about Hyliion. So Hyliion already has one system out there, okay, and this system gets retrofitted onto a truck, and there's a lot of confusion by people that I see talking about Hyliion about the difference between these two systems, okay? The system that they currently have is retrofitted onto a truck that already has a diesel engine and transmission and everything in it, okay? And you put that system onto an existing truck, and basically it boosts it with an electric motor. It boosts what you already have to try to save fuel mileage and increase power and stuff like that, okay? The truth is that as a trucker, okay, and as somebody who knows the business, I don't see that as being a very viable product, okay? Companies, big companies, okay, big companies that would buy something like that in scale don't keep their trucks very long. And we're talking big companies, guys. You know, a company like Schneider, Crete, Swift, Prime. These are huge companies with thousands and thousands of trucks, okay? These companies don't keep their trucks long enough for that to be viable for them. They only keep the trucks 3 or 4 years. We're putting, I put almost 130,000 miles on this truck in the last year. And the companies only keep the trucks to about 400,000 miles before they trade them in for new trucks. So it's not really economically viable for them to retrofit these systems onto the trucks that they're not planning on keeping very long. Okay, so that's the product that's available right now. And I think that's part of the reason that the HYLN stock has not been doing so well, because that technology has not really caught on, all right, for the reasons that I've said. However, the ERX system that they're about to come out with, okay, the ERX system is a whole different story. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? Now, go back and watch my other videos, because I don't want to do too much like repeating myself, okay? But the ERX system works the way things work already. Already right now, okay, this is, I think, part of what people don't understand, okay? People think that the ERX is like similar to this other system where it's a retrofit kind of system where you take a truck and you change stuff to make it electric, okay? But that's not what the ERX system is. The ERX system is an alternative system to the way trucks are set up now. And the way it works right now, when you go, say you go to Kenworth to buy a truck, or Freightliner, or Peterbilt, or any of these companies, when you go to buy a truck from these companies, you spec the truck the way you want it. That means if you want a Cummins engine with a 13-speed manual transmission in it, you can get it set up that way. If you want a Cummins with an automatic, you can get it that way. If you want a PACCAR engine with auto shift, you can get that. If you want a PACCAR engine with an 18-speed in it, you can get that. If you want a PACCAR or a Cummins with a 10-speed in it, you can get that. Okay, and you can also get all kinds of different configurations for the gears in the rear end, depending on what you haul. You know, there's certain ways, and truck drivers know about this. Okay, this is how you spec out a truck. You decide what you want, and then they build it that way for you. Okay, and of course you can't get any engine you want in a Kenworth. You can't get any engine you want in a Freightliner, because Freightliner typically you get a Cummins or you can get a DD15 or a Detroit engine in it. But they all use the same, like, Eaton Fuller transmissions, and you can get these trucks spec'd however you want. Okay, so with that said, the Hyliion system is just another option. That's all it amounts to, guys. They're going to build this system so that it will mount up to any of these trucks. And then, so presumably, if they're able to make these deals, I mean, right now they're talking about having them put in by other companies. But if they can make deals once it catches on with Kenworth, Freightliner, and they've already, the one that they built is in a Freightliner, then all it will be is just a matter of how you choose to spec your truck, just like it is now. You can say, I want a Cummins with a 13-speed, or you can say, I want the Hyliion ERX system. So it already works that way. It's not like a big change. And then also, you know, something that I talked about previously, but I want to talk about a little more, okay? There is a segment of truck driving, okay, and a lot of people who buy their own trucks and stuff like that, they specifically want what's called a glider truck, okay? There are companies that build glider trucks, okay? And before the government regulated them a few years ago, they were super popular. I mean, they were so popular that the government had to regulate it to slow it down, because what they were doing was they would buy a truck with no engine and transmission. The company that builds the gliders would buy a truck with no engine and transmission, and then they would put an older engine in it, because if you buy an engine that is before a certain year model, then you don't have to put all the emission systems on it. And in a big truck, like, the emission systems are super expensive to fix, and they break down a lot, because what it basically does, the emission systems on a big truck, what it basically does is makes the engine breathe in its own shit, you know, more or less. Like, the carbon and the emissions go right back into the oil, into the engine, and they screw up the engine. They're constantly, the DEF canisters are having to be baked, the components fail. So drivers hate those emission systems. So with the glider companies, they were able to get a brand new Kenworth, but with an older engine that didn't have the emission systems. And so this system was super popular. And because it is pollutive in nature, because you're not using the emission system, so it's polluting more, the government regulated that. So it put a big strain on all of these glider companies. But when the ERX system comes out, these glider companies have the potential to reinvigorate by still being able to produce the small number of gliders that they're allowed to produce, but also adding to that repertoire the ability to change these glider trucks over to the ERX system. Now, the benefit of that is that you see a lot of owner-operators, okay? A lot of these truck drivers, they are against technology. They don't like the emission systems. systems. They don't like computers. They don't like all of this stuff. And they will spend extra money and jump through all kinds of hoops to avoid those things. But if they're able to buy a glider truck that has this electric system in it, the ERX, and that not only saves them fuel, but it also allows them not to have to deal with the emission systems. And, it's a no-brainer, guys. It's a no-brainer that after the testing phase is done, and they send out the initial trucks for companies to test, once it catches on, it's going to catch on big, guys. And when you think about a company like Nikola, who's doing hydrogen fuel cell technology, the Hyliion system will work for that. So all this allows is for Hyliion to be the first one that hits the ground running. And then when hydrogen becomes a reality, it's easy for them to just change over the generator and the fuel system source to run on hydrogen. I mean, they can easily convert over to that system once it's viable. But right now, the hydrogen system is not viable. The fuel is way too expensive. It's dirty to create it. And, Hyliion's technology, as long as you can get the RNG instead of the CNG, which I believe is coming, you're going to be at zero emissions, really net negative emissions with the vehicle. There's a lot of benefits also to electrification. You've got more power than a traditional engine. You've got the built-in APU, more or less. I know you don't know what that is. It's an auxiliary power unit that we use so that I can run my microwave and TV and stuff like that without the truck running. The Hyliion system incorporates that through the batteries. The truck that I use right now is a new system that is battery based, whereas most of them are like a generator that's on the outside of the truck. But the Hyliion system incorporates that into it. So I didn't really explain the system. What the system basically is, like a 35 or 40 mile battery or something like that, that it's a fully electric big truck. But instead of having to plug it into a charger, there's a natural gas generator where the engine would normally be that charges the battery. So, say you go 20 miles, the generator kicks on, charges the battery. It can charge while you're driving, and it does this on natural gas. One of the benefits to this is that you don't have to sit and plug the truck in for an hour, which is a big deal for truck drivers. We don't have a lot of time. Our hours are heavily regulated by the DOT, not just the hours we drive, but all the hours in between as well. And we don't really have the time to sit and charge. But the Hyliion truck fuels up with natural gas. And here's the thing. There are already natural gas fueling stations all across the country. A company called Clean Energy Fuels has natural gas fueling stations at Flying J and Pilot truck stops. They're not at all the Flying J's, but they are at quite a few of them. I've seen 2 or 3 of them just in the last week, okay? So the system for fueling the truck is already out there, whereas there are no places to charge an electric truck. There are no places to fuel hydrogen. I mean, the infrastructure is not there, which is why I say these other technologies aren't yet going to be valid for long-haul truckers. What's going to be valid is something that already works with the infrastructure and the systems that are in place now. And that's what I see in Hyliion. You'll be able to fuel it. You'll be able to get it installed. I guarantee you that these glider companies and stuff will jump on top of it once it's proven to be effective. And I guarantee you that it won't be long after that, if they don't come out with deals really, really early, where you can just get it spec'd that way when you buy it. I see this technology being the only one that already works within the current system. And it's the only one that's going to provide me the ability to go 1,000 miles like I can now. I can do about 1,000 miles on a full tank, okay? This Hyliion system is supposed to do the same thing, about 1,000 miles before you have to fill it up. It's just, it makes it to where there's minimal changes that have to occur. And so therefore it's going to be the first one that's viable in this space. The other ones there are just too many changes that have to take place. Too much infrastructure that has to be built. So now let's talk about the stock, okay? The difference between the company itself and the product and the stock. Because that's something that I haven't talked about before. Hyliion stock, okay? They don't do a whole lot of PR and hype. There's not a whole lot of hype behind the stock, so it's not having huge run-ups, okay? I also want to be clear that there are a lot of people holding the bag in Hyliion stock. Hyliion is a long-term investment. I don't see real profits in this stock for another year. But the benefit of that is that you have plenty of time right now to start dollar cost averaging into the stock, which is what I am doing now in my long-term portfolio. Like you have, in my opinion, you're going to have at least 6 months, probably a year, to start dollar cost averaging into the stock and buying on the dips, getting it, you know, $17, $16, $15 a share, and dollar cost averaging in it at a good cost basis, so that when it does hit the market and when it does start to catch on, you're going to make good money on it, okay? But you're not going to make money this month on it. And that's the reason that I have moved it over to my long-term portfolio. So the stock price, like, you can't expect a huge giant run-up on it yet, because they're still 8 months away from even sending out the first iterations of the truck to be tested by their customers, okay? So it's a long-term investment. And as a truck driver, as somebody who knows the business, I'm telling you that if everything goes to plan, they are going to be the ones who dominate the long-haul trucking space for the next 5 years. Once they come out, you know, they're going to have a good 3 to 5 years of being the dominant force in this space before these other companies are viable for long-haul trucking. So, with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. And hit that subscribe button, guys. Help me grow the channel. Like the video. And thanks for watching.